Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. My next guest is very near, dear, and special to me. I have Laura here, and we have had so many great conversations that would not have even come about if it wasn't for one of our mutual connections, Oleg Lahid, who brought us together. And I say, she's my sister that keeps me grounded. We can go off on these tangents of going through everyday life, but really being able to have some meaningful conversations. I feel like I've known her for years. So I'm excited to have her here today. So we're going to begin with her introducing herself before we get into the interview.
Thank you, Lachelle. Thank you so much for inviting me on as your guest. It truly is an honor and a joy to be here. As you said, I'm Laura Staley. I'm founder of Cherish Your World. So I passionately help people thrive in the physical spaces where they live and in their hearts, and in shedding those limiting beliefs, and often in that holistic transformation. I love guiding people who are open to that journey. It's a blast. It's one that I've been on for 20 years. Well, in some ways, my whole life. Right? You have these moments where you look back and you go, "Wow, I sort of been doing this all along, but I didn't
Absolutely.
I didn't know what to call it."
Mhm.
I didn't have maybe I could describe it kind of. Yeah, so I'm an author. I love to speak. I love to share. I love being a podcast guest. It's just been a huge joy. And I know when my last book published last year, I got invited on a number of podcasts, and it just keeps going. It's kind of like, oh, okay. And so I continue to go with it. And like I said, it's just an honor to be with you here today. And we can go all kinds of places. Oh, and by the way, because you are of course America's Supermom, I do have 2 adult children. I have a daughter and son, and I loved the time period in which I was fortunate to be a full-time mom. So before I created Cherish Your World, and even then it was very part-time.
Mhm.
Uh, I had a decade where I was all in, full out, heart, soul, body, mostly my mind.
Right. So true. I mean, do you ever get your mind back is the question,
Yeah,
right?
right, right. It's just kind of just like goes over. It takes a little vacation to heal.
Exactly.
And I don't know, heart and body.
So true.
But yeah, I actually, and I will say this, that parenting continues, because of course I'm still a mom, right? Continues to be the richest and most meaningful life work that I could ever do, because I'm blessed to say that I broke the cycle. And
Mm.
because my childhood, teenage years, early 20s, even when I first became a mom, I had a lot of shedding of traumas and healing to do, and because I knew I wanted to parent in a much healthier way than
Mm.
I had been parented. And
I
not that
love
it was, yeah, I'll just say that.
that. That is so good because, this is so appropriate for right now because so many people have been home. They have had this situation where they're thrown into their career and full-time parenting at the same time with their kids being homeschooled. So, what are some things that you can tell the people who are watching about breaking that cycle because they're in that space? It's like we used to have so many distractions. You can drive to work, you can kind of get away from home life, you can, go out to eat, go to the movies, and a lot of these things are not the escapes that we're used to. And so we're kind of in this place where we are forced to be able to reflect and have that time with ourselves and realize that things may not be how we thought they were. So for somebody who is at that juncture of wanting to break the cycle, what advice would you give them?
Wow. Take that time. Well, one thing for sure, the pause. In fact, I heard somebody just earlier today talk about a book titled The Pause. I haven't read it. So, but I actually stuck that quote from Viktor Frankl
Mhm.
on my fridge. Actually, I put up all kinds of messages throughout my house as a structure to remind me that I had different choices, and the
Mm.
pause being one of them, meaning we all have that moment, right? When a child has done or said something and you just wanna and it's like, uh, and the pause being that moment where you literally, I called it, taking those timeouts for myself. Now, in my case, I had to interrupt a trauma kind of PTSD response that I was having to my kids that was not healthy.
Mhm.
And so I literally got to I would be able to catch that sensation in my body, uh,
Mm.
and it clipped the wire before it went off in a bomb inside of
Yeah.
me. This makes
Mhm.
sense to you.
Mhm.
'Cause words that you say, you just can't, you
Take
know,
back. Yeah.
take, right? And so that pause and putting myself in timeout was huge. I know this may be really strange to some people, but it's okay.
Mm.
I
Mm-mm.
literally put myself in timeout. As soon as I noticed that, after episodes of behaving very, like imploding in front of my kids,
Mhm. Mhm.
and because I was terrifying them, and I was grateful because their dad at the time, who I was married to at that juncture, came to me and basically said, "Look, you're terrifying the kids. You're kind of scaring me too, but you're really terrifying the kids." And they were little,
Mhm.
they were toddlers, Lachelle,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I just, and it was funny because at first I was like, well, they need to see what anger looks like, and I was like all ruffled and defensive. And
Mhm.
then, like I sat back down and sat with myself about what he had said. And I felt such shame because I thought only cowards really take it out and lash out at tiny little beings, right? Or
Wow.
behave badly or cuss up a storm. Cause it's not, well, I struck my daughter once and that
Mhm.
terrified me and I stopped. That was just my thing.
Mhm.
But I was just like raging, the salty sailor, like, okay, if
Mhm.
I don't want my son saying the F word with grandma, I got to stop saying it, And it was like, wow. So I literally took myself into timeout.
Mhm.
And as soon as I would feel that sensation, I would look at my kids and I would say, Mommy's got to take a timeout, and they
Mhm.
would know. Now it was a little scary for them at first, and they'd be at the door crying, and I would
Mhm.
go into the bedroom and scream all of that into the
Mm.
pillow and into the bed instead of at them, right?
I
And it
love that.
wasn't that I was calling them names.
Right.
I was just like, "Rah!" I was like,
Yeah.
those characters in the cartoon,
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I'm a human being. I'm a human mother, and yeah. And so what had happened is after my then husband said that to me, I had another episode that the veil came off, and I literally caught myself. I mean, I was in the middle of the
Mhm.
and I opened my eyes and I saw the terrified faces of my kids,
Wow.
and I ran into the bedroom. I mean, I can still feel that moment, Lachelle,
Mm.
honestly, because it was
Mm.
like I was witnessing myself enough, right,
Yes.
to kind of
Mhm.
interrupt it, and I just bawled my eyes out. I was
Mhm.
filled with shame. And then I
Mhm.
identified that I was like in this shame rage cycle, right? And
Mhm.
that day I called. and this is just my story, I called for professional help because I knew that this monster inside of me, these monsters inside of me were way bigger than I could just all by myself handle. So I sought out professional support to help me unravel those traumas. But for people who, that they may not need that, they just may need the timeout. They just may need the reminder of the pause, so that you're and that self-care. Oh, that self-care is huge, and especially right now. And depending on the ages of the children, if even 10 minutes, it's amazing what 10 minutes of just sitting alone in a closet,
Yes.
and just breathing. I know I happen to appreciate a meditation practice. I didn't do it a whole lot as a mom, but I got to a place that during that time out, I would sit in what I called my peace chair. And I literally got to a place where I didn't have to scream out all the nasty words into the pillow or into my bed. I got to a place where I just got quiet. And I sat and I took deep breaths in my peace chair as my kids knew, oh, mommy's taking a time out, and I can take, they learned to take care of themselves for that 10 minutes that I would go in and be in the peace chair and just sit and breathe. And I'm telling you, it really, really made a difference, because then I wasn't going to bed ashamed of myself and all the 200 things that I had, all those words, right? I mean, there's a funny story that we have as a family now. It's funny now. At the time, I was just like, oh, where my son, I always knew I had a bad day, right? Because my son is out, he's playing with his Matchbox cars. So sweet, little toddler guy. And he's saying the F word. He's like, F, F, F. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, this is so not okay. And he didn't know what the word meant.
Exactly.
He was just trying to sort himself out and probably release whatever was inside of him as a result of mom's, blow.
Yes.
And it was such a reminder, like, honestly, if I don't want my kids using certain words, I have to be the model of how I want my kids to be and behave, right? And if I'm not behaving particularly well, seriously, how can I expect, a 3-year-old or 4-year-old who's just starting to learn emotional regulation, right? And here's this adult who is not.
Hey, we have all been there, okay? And some of us are still there. So this is why this is good content, because they're like, hey, I need some help, right? We all have those moments. So I love that you bring up those things, because it is so true. Now, and we can just go to the point of, dealing with that anger and seeking out help, because, as you mentioned, you would go to your room and you just had to let it out. So I just want to let people know that if you don't let it out, the impact that it can have. For me, it was all the bottling it up, pushing it down, taking it for the team was what I was thinking, but it was messing me up. I was the one that just was living unfulfilled as a result of that. So, what are some strategies that you learned to be able to release some of those feelings in a positive way rather than,
that's so good. Well, I was really fortunate. My kids went to a preschool where they demonstrated, encouraged the children because they were young. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm taking lessons. I'm taking notes, right? On the very question you're asking, they would write the children's words all out. So journaling is a really powerful way. Now, what I know about anger, and I did this with my son, is when he'd get all work, it's got energy about it, right? And so movement. So for me, I run. I'm a bicycler. I was a triathlete at one point. I had
Wow.
to move my body, and that was absolutely a healthy way. For some people, it's yoga practice, and I've done that also. But if it's anger, I think movement, dance, wiggling, doing the chopping movement, and you can even show these kinds of moves to kids. And I distinctly remember, and my son probably remembers this too, when he was so frustrated, and I took the whole basket of Beanie Babies or whatever it was. They were Beanie Babies, so they couldn't hurt any, and from the bottom of the stairs, I was cheering him on to hurl those Beanie Babies. And I would run up at the top of the stairs, and I would gather them all up, and I would bring them back down. And he just kept, he'd grab another one, and I'm like, yeah, take that anger and just hurl those Beanie Babies. And I'm telling you, it helped him so much to have that healthy way to release. Well, us adults are the same way. I also remember my daughter was struggling with words. Of course, she just, it was a very short period of time, but she started biting. She bit me, she bit her brother, and I'm like, okay, biting's not okay.
I had quite a few of mine did that. Yeah.
And I gave her a washcloth. I said, you can get your frustrations out with a washcloth. So I know it may sound really unique and different, but it helped her so much. And once she got words, then she was able to say the words to express herself and to get that frustration out of her body. So body movements. I know yoga has. I know I could even do it now, but it's like, ha!
Oh, yeah.
And martial arts. While I'm thinking of that, that movement of just, punching the air. I know dance music that's really like inspiring and uplifting, and and you're not hurting anyone. See, this is what I've learned, Lachelle. When you release, especially anger, without dumping it on your with me not dumping it on my kids, or my kids not hurting each other or hurting me, right? And giving them these safe outlets. Let's get outside, and I know that's tough with COVID in certain places right now, but that movement it's huge, because that frustration is just, it's a really it's an energy that needs, and then there's the hurt underneath, and then there's the love, and to unpackage it, in a calm moment. And I think even adults, right? If we can take that pause and, yell into the pillow, run into a closet, scream in your car. That's another one. I've also turned music up really loud. I love Adele. I'm usually not like promoting individual people, but I happen to love Adele, and I'm cranking it, and screaming out the words, right? and I'm not hurting anybody. And I could care less if somebody's driving by and sees this woman going, yelling or saying all those words, because again, nobody's in the car.
Right.
Nobody's getting hurt. And now if I'm really worked up, maybe pull the car over. Right. And crank the movement, and then sob, and cry.
Right.
But I think everybody's just got to find their way, but hopefully that's like a whole,
that is good.
Of possibilities. A punching bag. I think some people will let their kids, let those feelings out and say, hey, punch the pillow, punch the back. Don't, you can't hurt me, but, go punch the back.
Exactly.
And it's okay,
I love that.
Anger's human. It's a human emotion, and how to channel it in a way that I'm not hurting myself. I'm not self-harming, right?
Right.
And I'm not stuffing it. I'm not going and grabbing a bagel and just, because it's just like, okay, that's just gonna go
right.
places. And there was a time that I did that instead of, finding healthy ways.
Right.
Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
That was great. So, I love it because, like I said, we've got people that are at that juncture, and that's what I'm about, having real strategies to Hey, we all find those moments. I'm on that app Clubhouse. So it was so funny. I had my daughter on this morning on that app and she was singing, she was performing, and everybody was like, "Oh, we just love your daughter." Same time that's going on, I'm getting a text from one of my kids' teachers saying this child is missing some assignments. So it's like, hey, you go figure. You got one doing good, it's always a juggle, okay? But so I love that because people just look at, oh my goodness, she's got these books and she's got this organization, and they feel like they can't understand or even feel that you're approachable because they have this idea that everything is going perfect for you. So I love how you given us some tips now. So talk to us about your organization and how it got started and what it's all about.
The whole Cherish Your World. Happy to. Flood. So of course, right? We had a flood of a finished basement and lost a whole lot of belongings. And there's the long version of the story, and I'll try to hit the medium version. But at any rate, lost a lot of things. The kids were little again. A lot of things happen a lot of things happen with kids and life, etc. At any rate, about a month later, I was with a family member at the time, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you got to hear about this, feng shui." And I'm like, what is that? And she had a beautiful home and young kids too. And she's like, no, it's about your space and your life and, the condition of your home and decluttering. And at any rate, I opened this book at just a random page and it says, "Live with belongings you love." And Lachelle, I was like, it's stuff. Wait, what? Right. But I was fascinated. And I ended up reading the entire book. It was called The Western Guide to Feng Shui, Room by Room by Tara Catherine Collins. Made it so accessible, these ideas, this 3,000-year-old ancient wisdom. I get back in my house and I'm looking around. It was a ranch and it was the finished basement that had flooded and was still in process of being restored. It takes time, by the way. Restoration of a whole basement, a finished basement, takes time. At any rate, I'm looking around and I see hand-me-downs everywhere. Not only hand-me-downs, but I loathe them. And remember that moment where I'm like, wait, having beloved belongings, what? And it went deep. It was my wardrobe, jewelry. Like, who was I? Oh my gosh, I had so adopted other people, like they had literally handed me their clothes and said, "Oh no, this will look good on you." And I just was clueless about who I was. Now I knew I wanted to be a mom. I knew some things about myself, but I had been so busy taking the scripts that had been handed to me that I hadn't found my voice, my heart, and my life. And in the process of having let go and looking around and realizing I had just been given a permission slip to live with belongings that I loved, but more important to me, because it wasn't like I ran out and went to Target to just buy a bunch of stuff. It was more like, no, what do I actually need that is aligned with my heart and with my kids? And what do they actually need versus their wish list that could be a mile long, right?
Right.
And then I began to model it for my kids, and we would do donate, keep. In fact, there's one. I know I'm doing shameless self-promotion. I don't care.
Oh no, hey, girl, you wrote it, you promoted, okay?
Yeah, there's great stories in this particular book about raising my kids and the ideas with space and the donate, keep, and how they could release things that they weren't playing with any longer. Now I let it be their choice. But yeah, I came to it by way of that recognition that, oh my gosh, I can actually have experiences that I really love. I can declutter my house of things that I loathe. Oh, please, permission right now. If there's something in your house that is is not liking you and you're not liking it, please, permission, right? I'm writing you a permission slip to
So
let
true.
go. Oh my gosh. And to give your children permission to do the same. There's so much stuff, right, that can come flowing into our lives that we just don't need. And it doesn't support the experiences that we actually want to have in our lives. And now with people being home, they're probably noticing, the layers and the drawers and the closets, all the places that may be kind of stuffed with clutter. And it's just a rich opportunity to get so clear about what I need, what kids need, and what they don't, and then the special things that they want to save up for, or whatever you want to create for your family, according to your value system, go for it. But I think we're moving out of what one person phrased it, the dark age of materialism. And I thought, wow, that's so profound, where people are really wanting to come into balance and harmony. Because that's some of the core ideas, that comfort, safety, flow. You want to be able to breathe in your spaces and not, and have that junk room actually be a room that supports, play or whatever your faith practices, or just be a sanctuary. Maybe it's your art space, and they're just beautiful stories that I continue to hear from clients that I've worked with of the transformation that's taken place once they hear themselves and recognize that there are objects in their space that they just don't need.
I love that because, it's there's so many stories that are a lot of times in the material possessions that we keep.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we've always had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You may not even be saying that, but because you walk around it, it's like, that's a limiting belief that's never going to go away until you change it. So it takes that getting things out of our environment to help us change the narrative. So I love that. That is just awesome. Okay. So empowering. So, what are some ways that we can support you in your organization, with Cherish?
Wow. I mean, people definitely can reach out and connect with me. I've got, like I said, I've got the 3 books. There's this one. I know people really appreciate this one, especially parents, right? Because they're just, a quick tip that you can kind of dip in. There are 100 for your home and your life. So that there's this, and it's available by way of my website, which is cherishyourworld.com, or loveyourspaceleveyourlife.com. This one is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and as an ebook. Yay. And then there's Live Inspired, and this is stories. This is about self-discovery. And though I definitely address clearing clutter and the transformation it can create, the book is really focused on personal growth and evolution. And it's stories along with the wisdom that I've gleaned along the way, Lachelle. And this is available. And that's another way people honestly can connect with me, because I tell the kind of stories that I've been telling you today in this book. We could kind of do the deeper dive.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now,
and I work with clients confidentially, so people can reach out again through my website if they're wanting to do an individual session. I can do it on Zoom now, which is awesome. In fact, I'll be helping a woman. She's got 2 kids, bedrooms, and I'm like all over it. So
awesome. Yeah, that is phenomenal. Look, I'm a work in progress. It probably would take forever to help me get organized, and it's so funny because, we've got kids that move out, then it's like, it's always a constant revolving door over here, and your kids leave and then they come back. I'm like, wait a minute. So, it's crazy over here, but now we're down to 9. So we're just, let's keep it going on that end. But, so what final words would you like to share with everybody in terms of, this space that we're in terms of, 2021? We've had so much negativity, we've trying to turn the corner to something positive and, a new outlook. A lot of us, some of them are still on lockdown, and, we still got lingering ideas about this virus. So, what would you like to share with everybody as today?
Wow. I guess start with you,
Mm,
whoever is listening right now. If they're, and I love the poetry of Mary Oliver. She talks about, listening, to the soft animal of the body that loves what it loves, and going to that place of what you actually love and value the most. Because I think this time period is teaching us to go within, Lachelle, and really, if we haven't identified it already, and I imagine some of your listeners have identified their core values,
mhm.
but in case you haven't, to get really clear, if you can, to the best of your ability. That's my invitation, to get really clear what you deeply care about, and go to take action on that. And loving ourselves and taking good care of ourselves is huge. Often that's the greatest gift that we can give our children, our loved ones, a spouse, other family members, colleagues, right? Because when I I'll just speak for myself. When I'm in that place of positivity and deep self-love and care and acceptance, wow, it's just a whole other energy ripple out in the world. And to find that peace and deep acceptance, and then the world will likely fall in love with you, because they'll just want to hang out with you, because you're happier and emotionally regulated. And, you know,
Hey,
I mean, I
definitely.
don't know, able to laugh at yourself, which
So
I
true.
have a huge capacity. But at any rate, yeah, that would be, my little riff, invitation, just an invitation, not, you must. There's
I
enough
love that.
out there, right?
So true. So true. That laughing thing, hey, I've learned to get that down because it has just been, from technology bloopers to all kinds of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's like, you got to get over yourself real quick if you want to keep moving forward. So I
It's so true.
definitely
I
get
know.
that.
Yeah,
But
grace to give ourselves so much
so
grace.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not
Mhm.
perfect. We're just, far from it.
Far from it. So,
Oh,
we just really, really thank you for all your nuggets of wisdom. I mean, this time goes by so fast. I mean, we only have usually an hour when we have our talks on Saturdays. And so, 30 minutes is just not enough time. So we definitely going to have you come back and share some of your insight, and just want to appreciate your transparency. I love being in the company of you. You just have a way of making me feel good about some of my issues that I still have, And I think that's the only way you can grow. It's because you can't solve a problem if you're not willing to tell what the problem is, because
oh,
otherwise you're just covering it up and you're never going to get to the root cause, and you're never going to have a solution. So, I appreciate your transparency. And for those of you that are watching, I encourage you to reach out to Laura. What you see is definitely what you get. I'm just saying, so genuine and authentic. And if something she said resonates with you, take action. Don't wait. Try to figure it out. There's so many people that are on internet and things like that they talk a good talk, but you don't know about them, right? So this is somebody that I can vouch and say, to follow through and just reach out and have a phone conversation and see where that leads you. Be open to the opportunity. So
mm.
thanks again, Laura, for coming.
Yeah.
and wish you much success. And I'm definitely going to have you on some more podcasts. I have several people to invite
That'd be
you to.
great.
Okay.
And
All right.
thank you. From my heart to yours, Lachelle.
Oh, you are so welcome. And we need to connect soon. I tell you, I've been just busy doing a lot of other things on the weekends. And, but I definitely miss our conversations.
Oh, yeah, I know. And they are still happening on those Saturday mornings. So, and I haven't been on every one, but still show up there. But yeah, thank you again. Thank you for your heart, your passion,
Aw.
your genuineness, and for this very meaningful opportunity and conversation, Lachelle. I'm so
Oh.
moved.
Oh, well, you are so welcome, and I'm definitely gonna have you back because we can talk for hours with different topics, so I think it'll be fun.
I would love it.
Awesome.
Oh God, I got stories on kids.
I know that's right, and, that's some good content right now, girl. We can look, you got grown kids, so we know that it worked out, okay?
I
So we
know,
can
right?
be encouraged.
Woo, it's a
So
coming.
this is good, okay? So, but
Oh.
thank you so much. And we want to thank you guys all for watching. And we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.